Hey everyone, welcome to Cannabis Technologist. With me today is the CEO of Alvit Pharma, Yona Levy, calling from Tel Aviv, Israel. How are you doing today, Yona?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. I'm going to give our viewers a breakdown of Mr. Levy. He has over 20 years of experience in business management and investment banking. Mr. Levy has been the CEO of Alvit Pharma for the last 4 years, and we're pleased to have him with us. Alvit focuses on the development of novel drugs that are based on combining proprietary formulations and dosage forms. So I want to chat with him about that. Mr. Levy is also a board member of Technologist, which is a new Israeli licensed medical grade cannabis producer with expertise to grow consistent and high quality varied strains. So why don't we start top level, Yona? Can we start by talking about how Alvit Pharma is positioning itself as a leader in the development of cannabis-based products?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Alvit is a very unique company that probably about 5 years ago decided that they're going to develop drugs out of cannabis, and it's trying to solve the most challenging problem of cannabis right now, and that is making cannabis speak in a language that doctors understand. Imagine yourself for a second that a certain doctor that needs to prescribe for one of his patients, cannabis, and what are the choices that he have right now? Smell it. If you got a lemon smell, then you can, smoke 2 puffs twice a day, and that solves your problem. Doctors don't speak that language, and Alvit is here trying to solve exactly that problem. That's exactly what we've done is we took a team which belonged to the old traditional pharmaceutical world, and we asked them to solve exactly that, make cannabis speak in a language that doctors understand.
Okay. Can we dive a little bit deeper, Yona? Can you give me an example of what some of this language would look like as opposed to traditional vernacular that doctors are used to?
So the option that doctors have right now is very, very limited. You can, prescribe your patient with a flower, which you don't know what he's really getting. You can prescribe your patient with oil, which is a little bit more knowing what they're getting, but not enough. And the next level, straight after that, is products. While you're developing a product, you have to understand, let's say, for what indication it works for, and then what delivery mechanism you use to get to that indication, to deal with that indication. And when you do that, you test like how much of it is actually the patient is getting. So doctors understand like what's the bioavailability of that product. What is what exactly in that product in the cannabis is helping the patient. Cannabis is one big word for so many strains, for so many things. Sometimes cannabis mean that it can put you to sleep, and sometimes cannabis mean it can get you stay awake. Sometimes it'll take your appetite away. Sometimes it will give you appetite away. And it's not just a miracle. It's not just, so it happened to be like that. There's actually active ingredients within the plant that are, some of them in one strain causing, the person to feel that way. And another strain with a different active ingredient of cannabis will cause exactly the opposite. Kind of like, let's say, apples. You can have a sour apple and a sweet apple. And both of them will do something else to you.
Sure. I think I follow. That's really interesting. So talk to me, why is Alvit Pharma's strategy to be a vertically integrated cannabis company? Why is it so critical to the model for its success?
Well, originally we didn't thought that we needed it. We thought we're going to focus on pharmaceuticals. We have a team. I mean, like if you look at the team of what we have, they're all, people that come from the pharmaceutical world. They have, tens of years of experience within it. And we thought we don't need to. We will just buy the API, basically the active ingredients from whoever we can buy. And, unfortunately, that route didn't work that well for us. We found out that we need actually to do more, okay, of be more involved in more parts of the plant to get to the end, to the development of drugs. Like for example, when you develop a drug and you use a certain API meaning active ingredient coming from the plant, and 3 months later you get different API, and all your work is gone nowhere. When you're developing a drug, you might find out that you want certain terpene or cannabinoid to be more, you need more of it basically to get the effect you're looking for. If you're not controlling another area, which is the growing of it, then maybe you won't get to what you want to get at the end of the day. And that's why we find out that you have to be more vertically integrated. We do agree to give up sometimes on parts. Let's say if we find out somebody else knows how to do extraction or do some like other parts within it. It's not that this is the idea is we want to do everything, but the idea is whatever we have to do to get into a drug, we will do. And that's where we become important for us to be more vertically integrated.
Okay. So having said that, what are some of your development targets?
Well, the key is to create a pharma-grade, okay, product. So again, that same doctor we talked to at the beginning will be able to feel comfortable when he's prescribing somebody. And I mean that, it's not just he feels that it's not going to hurt his patient, but actually he will understand why this is helping his patient. So what we're targeting is creating, product that would have, if needed, standard of FDA. And, at the same time, take advantage of the fact that there is a route right now outside with cannabis that you can actually get to product without spending the 10 years of, process and the hundreds of millions of dollars spent on it. So in a way, we want to be that level of the pharma grade, but we don't want to take advantage of the system that there is right now where you don't need to go through the full route. So we will do, let's say, for example, alcohol dumping, okay? When someone taking a pill and then he's having a beer or he's having a cup of wine, will that cause the pill to disagrade faster? And that could be problematic. So maybe, we'll test that before, just for example. FDA will require that. If you don't have to go through the FDA, maybe, some companies will not go that route. Our target is to create pharma-grade product within the cannabis industry in a language that the doctor basically, again, teach cannabis to speak in language the doctors understand.
Okay. So having said that, how can Alvit assist with increasing the connection between cannabis and the healthcare system? I anecdotally understand the language and some of the things we just talked about, but how can it help between, bridging that gap between cannabis and healthcare?
If you think for a second that, if you try to figure a situation where right now, let's say in certain countries, let's say the insurance company, they can avoid paying for the cannabis. And
right.
One of the main reasons is, look, this is a flower. We're not sure how it's working. We're not sure if it does it right, if it doesn't have damages. We don't want to take the liabilities. When you come with product that is tested, that doctors behind it tested and says, look, this is good. That's how it's working. Then the healthcare system can, in a way, it's not such an expensive medicine, compared to many other medicine outside there. So it does make sense for them to work with it. It just does liabilities right now. If we, make that liability go away, they'll be more reluctant to, offer paying for it. And that basically change everything for patients and for cannabis.
Sure. And given I'm just curious, given the baggage and the friction that comes with cannabis, how hard has that been for this company to do that? It just seems like sometimes the deck is stacked against you. What are some of the misconceptions you have to overcome?
Well, I think that the first time that I heard the word cannabis was when my parents wasn't very happy about my younger brother. They found out that he's, smoked cannabis. And, it kind of stuck in my mind. This is awful. This is horrible. Look how my parents, were upset about it. Right. The next time that I heard about the cannabis was when, unfortunately, my parents got sick and regular painkiller wasn't doing the work anymore or causing more damage than helping. And cannabis was offered. That was the second time. And, in a way I was asked, how do you lobby for cannabis? How do you get over all the, the challenges that there is with misconception about cannabis? And I'm saying the following. Unfortunately, we have the strongest lobbyists in the world working for us. They got evil names. One of the names is cancer. One of the names is epilepsy. Another name will be, pain. But they are very, very effective. Unfortunately, in every house, there is somebody that is affected by one of the things that cannabis can help for. So even though this is kind of our war, it is a war where there is very sad help coming from, the actual diseases that are around us that cannabis can help solving or
Sure.
ease at least.
And I can relate. I've heard many stories similar to that. So, yeah, interesting. So, Yona, I was in Denver, Colorado at MJ last year. I was astonished at the number of Israeli-based businesses, Israeli expertise that was present at the show. And so I'd like to know, what role can Israel have in the global cannabis industry? It seems to have a big footprint.
Well, there are a few things to take in consideration, with looking at Israel's role within the global cannabis industry. The first one is the nature of the Israelis. It's very entrepreneur. Okay, they will very, quickly adopt, quickly, change, and Israel is kind of a young country, and look how far it got with technology and with many other things. That said, at least we in Israel, see two sides of the government. And one side, in terms of like medical research, we're easier for us to get licensed, easier for us to have the work, whatever facility require or the brains require to conduct, research. But then, when you talk about, another, side of it, which was Israel had the potential to become a world leader also in supplying cannabis to the world. You've seen the government stopping it without any legit or make sense reason for that. You've seen
right.
Sorry. You've seen like
no, I was
companies.
Just saying, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Yona. I'm concurring. I've heard and seen that as well.
Yeah. I mean, like Israel come with big declaration where it can export cannabis to the world. People, invested a lot in it and started work on, getting into there. Israel is branded very well. I mean, you've seen, putting, up there the work of Professor Meshulam, back then, which, definitely contribute a lot into understanding cannabis better. And you've seen the good work done, by, the conferences that are happening in Israel, like Canotech. You see the Israel developed a beautiful brand within cannabis, but the government is kind of limiting it. So, for a company like us, I can take my, my know-how and my, and do a tech transfer. But that doesn't let Israel like basically, fulfill this, as a potential. And I hope that the government will change the perspective. They're talking now that they may approve it soon, and we all hope that will happen. There is another challenge in Israel. It's more internal, where there's not enough doctor prescribing. And that challenge has been worked on also.
Okay. So let's transition to Canada. It's a new emerging market with the change in laws, both on a recreational level as well as medicinal. So I'm curious to get you to reflect on the main differences between Israeli medical cannabis market and the Canadian market.
Well, this is a beautiful, direction to go on. You see a country like Canada that literally have almost nothing to offer in terms of agriculture, okay? Not enough to offer in terms of the, pharmaceutical side. And still, they are by far ahead of Israel, by far. And you see, like, if you look at the amount of, let's say, patients that was in the start in Canada, if you go back like, let's say 2014, and you go to like maybe 14,000, and then, the year after 50,000, the year after 150,000, then 300,000 patients, I think, last year. You see a growth of a healthy market. I mean, the expectation is like when you have a market that is, and actually you see the economy side of it, like when companies are going public and getting, support by the market or validation by the market, of that specific industry. And then you look at Israel, which have a better climate for growing, have, the brain and the research, they're working on it for quite a while. I had Professor Mishulam at the beginning to give it a head start. There's like a lot in there. And unfortunately, the two barrier that, kind of like the regulators put out there, one was the export, which, made a big damage for the companies that work on it. And the second one, internally, I mean, they're talking about every market that is open up for medicinal use should be around 1.5 to 2% of the adult population. Canada is definitely heading to that direction. Many countries in America is heading to that direction. Israel is, from one hand, cannot export, and the other hand, stuck with the number of 40,000 patients. That is kind of sad because, as much as it's important to have the business working well and you can export and use that advantage, there are people in Israel that should get cannabis and find the route for it, rather difficult or impossible sometimes. So that's the main differences between Canada is doing it right. Israel, unfortunately, have all the potential, but we haven't seen them doing it right yet. We're trying.
Yeah, clearly. So, what's on the horizon for Alvit Pharma, for what's coming in the next year? What are some of the things we can look forward to or see?
Well, we think that in terms of if we look at the world, producers like I'm looking, for example, at, I said before, Canada is not a place to grow. And I would ask, you or anybody else that challenge that, how much coffee they grow in Canada. Nobody grow coffee in Canada, and nobody at the end is going to grow cannabis in Canada. Cannabis is going to be grown in a country that fits more in terms of climate, that fit more in terms of, agro, like rice is not grow there or coffee is not grow there. So we think in terms of first of the world, it will start to shift from countries that are legalized it, but maybe not fit for doing it, into countries that starting to legalize it that will actually fit for growing, cannabis. Also, that's one angle. The other angle is you've seen in America where product starts as flowers, move into oil, move into products. We think the same will follow in the rest of the world, meaning there is a demand right now, and I think it's for Alvit it is perfect to move from flowers into actual products that will be validated. So that's exactly the area where we're working on. We're hoping over the next 12 months to start selling our products in the country which are allowed, in Europe, with countries that are allowed. In Israel, I know it's coming in the horizon very soon. We're going to start selling the products. And Canada, we have a great help over there by our local partners over there, which is actually a pharmaceutical company. So we have the correct infrastructure of getting there as well. And if God willing, the things will continue as they are right now, then Alvit is place itself in a very good place for showing or performing exactly where the need is.
I can see that. Very interesting. Yona, I really enjoyed this conversation. We need to wrap up, but before we do, I want to be able to send our listeners. Where could we send them to learn more about you and Alvit Pharma?
Okay, so they can go to our site, which is Alvit Pharma, ALVIT, PHARMA, alvitpharma.com. They can see some of the stuff we're doing over there regarding Tefan, which is basically our growing arm within Israel. Most information is public. It's trading on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Also interesting to look at the stuff we're doing over there. And I hope that we get a chance to speak again soon.
Absolutely. It was a great, I really appreciate reflecting on the market and some of the things you're trying to do. It's obviously there's a huge need for it. So again, really appreciate it. Let's do this again and have a fantastic day, okay?
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Yona. That's it, everyone. See you next time.